Thanks, John and Frank. That was awesome. I think we can all be inspired by what they've accomplished and how they've changed the discussion. Thank you very much. Now, John and Frank have been kind enough to invite myself and a few of my colleagues into their UPlan organization. In this next section, what we'd like to do is highlight some other capabilities of ArcGIS Online, as well as showcase some new features. Now, one of the challenges that we face as GIS professionals is making our information more available. ArcGIS Online makes that easy. To show us how that works, please welcome Jeremiah Lindemann.
Thanks, Bernie. Frank mentioned previously how he oftentimes had to play the role of gatekeeper to web publishing. And I think many of us can relate to being on one side or the other of that fence. If you administer servers, you're usually worried about space, or simply don't have time to grant permissions to publish everyone's content. Those of us as GIS analysts would agree, we're usually lucky if we do get our content published. To make things even more complicated, if my boss comes to me in the morning and asks me for a map by the end of the day, and my server administrator leaves early, my map is probably never going to make its way to the web. So let me take you through a real problem that UDOT was faced with. Last October, there was a massive landslide that took out a large portion of Highway 14. As we can see from the photos, the destruction is really overwhelming, and this is a priority project. What we're looking at now is a map of the planned construction area, and in the middle is where the landslide occurred. Now, often as GIS analysts, we're asked to make maps very quickly. I'm going to make a map of at-risk areas where rocks still may fall during construction. I have data to support this analysis. For instance, areas of expansive soils where rocks may fall. We also know the topography is very rugged in this area. This is a slope map, so we can see where those high slopes are. This data can be extracted and analyzed via a model to derive the results. Now, I'm not going to run the whole model, but just the last part. What I now see in orange are my at-risk areas where rocks may be prone to fall during construction. Now, traditionally, this is where sharing my map would start to slow down. And I'd probably resort to making a PDF that could be printed to give into construction crews. But now, all I have to do is sign into ArcGIS Online. Note I'm signing into UPlan, the same ArcGIS Online organization Frank and John were accessing via a web browser. I'm only interested in sharing the at-risk areas where the construction is and the landslide. Once signed in, I can share my map as an online hosted service. Now, I have many options to choose from for how I want my service to be configured. For instance, at what levels of detail do I want caching to be enabled to deliver my map quicker? I've documented my map really well. All this information will also get carried along with the service. I also get to choose who has access to the map. Securely to those members inside my organization, the general public, or specific working groups. I'm publishing the map service to the Landslide Hazards Working Group. So any person that's a member of that group will be able to automatically find my service and not have to search for it. So what's occurring right here is all the content from my map is being extracted into a service definition. What's really nice is I don't have to worry about whether the data is in SDE servers or file-based data on my machine. Everything's going to the cloud automatically for me. It's also going to start the process of building tiles in the cloud as well. The service has been created, so let's go access it. When published, I published it to the Landslide Hazards Working Group. Any person that's a member of this group automatically sees the map that I just created today. We can take a look at the details. All my map documentation gets carried along with the service, including any links to metadata I may have included. Now, it says it's in the process of building tiles right now, which I could still access. And for this small geographic area, this would probably only take another minute or two. But let me back up to one that I've already created. Now, the content that I'm responsible for can be in the hands of anyone. When this becomes really powerful, though, is when you can add additional content to your map. Remember, my map is a map of at-risk areas where rocks may fall. I know that my organization has also published landslide potential. What we now see is a multi-hazard map of where rocks may fall and potential for landslides. This area right here looks really suspicious because it's both in the hazard area for landslides, falling rocks, and right next to where that massive landslide occurred last October. I want to make sure construction crews are aware of this. So let's make a markup on the map. While in the field, we want them to watch for future erosion, and that will appear in a pop-up. So this all occurred really quickly, so let's think about what just happened. Without ArcGIS Online, this project with a quick turnaround time probably never would have made its way to the web. My data and analysis went from my desktop to the cloud in less than a few minutes, quicker than I could have sent my map to the printer. Back to you, Bernie.
Jeremiah has shown us something very powerful. He's used ArcGIS Desktop, the same software that most of us use every day, and he's authored and published a map directly to the cloud. He's taken data from his workstation and turned that into a highly usable web map. And earlier, Jack talked about web maps and their importance. Web maps, ArcGIS Online web maps, are more than just a map in a browser. To the Esri development teams, they're a specification that enables their use in many different applications, on many different platforms, and on many different devices. To us, they're information building blocks that we can assemble and configure so that others can also work with these maps. So let's build upon the map that Jeremiah just created and do more with it. Back to you, Jeremiah.
Thanks, Bernie. What I'm now doing is saving a web map. Saving a web map will allow me to share it in more meaningful ways. Once I've saved my web map, I can choose who has access to it. I can share a simple map to the link that we've been looking at, share it via social media, and also make web applications. Let's take a look at the first template we provide. Now, these are configurable templates, meaning you get to choose what tools appear on the interface and the overall look and feel of the application. More importantly, these applications can be hosted in the cloud, meaning I don't have to download a bunch of code and then go find a web server to place it on. Everything's in the cloud for me. Now, recently, we've added several additional templates. Many of them will help you tell a story of what you want to convey. I've already configured one of these. Oftentimes, when someone asks you for a map, they're not asking just for a map. They're asking a way to convey answers to certain questions. So now what we're doing is we're providing a map, but we're also unfolding the story of the landslide that happened, hazards and at risk in the area, and the important work that UDOT is doing to repair the road. So I've been accessing the web map in a couple different templates we provide. But the web map is not just for web browsers. It can be accessed anywhere, as Jack described. So now I'd like to take the same web map and access it on my mobile device. Okay. I'm going to use the ArcGIS app on my iPhone. And note, I can access the UPlan ArcGIS Online organization we've been utilizing all morning. I can save favorite maps. And now the same content that was on my desktop a few minutes ago is readily available at my fingertips. Construction crews can use the GPS on their device to examine those at-risk areas. The example of Highway 14 and the landslides is just one of many construction projects that UDOT is working on. In reality, each construction project has a story, whether it's expanding lanes due to high traffic or repaving deteriorating roads. I can take a series of maps now, and with the new capabilities of ArcGIS Online, share them all at once. I can take all these maps, make a centralized gallery application, one central location where all my maps can be found. Again, this application is hosted in the cloud for me. Likewise, if I have an existing website, I can take those same maps, choose how I want them to appear in the website, copy this code to give to my web developer, and the result is this: a much more transparent view as to how UDOT is spending its money. When someone comes to this website, they get a more of immediate sense as to how each project may impact them. So in summary, as GIS professionals, we've always had a challenge in sharing our work with our colleagues or the general public. With ArcGIS Online, finally, I can contribute my content quickly to anyone. As a result, I'm instrumental in not just sharing my work, but representing my whole organization. Back to you, Bernie.
Jeremiah has shown us the power of a web map and how easily we can do some very interesting things with it through configurable applications. A web map is also the geographic platform that can empower others. It can empower other people in our organization, not just the GIS department, but others in our organization can build upon our work to accomplish their own work. This is all about self-service mapping. And to show us how all this comes together, please welcome Tom Murray.
Thank you, Bernie. Thank you. So, when I got back to the office, I had a note from my boss. It said, Tom, I need you to create a map that shows our projected construction and maintenance costs for all of our airports for the next 20 years. And I need this information in our public website as soon as possible. Okay. Well, it sounds like there was a big directors meeting or some event this morning that triggered it. But I hadn't planned on creating this map, let alone a web application today. But let's see how quickly we can knock it out. Now, I know that UPlan is a great place to start. And we have an existing map that's focused on the current pavement conditions. So I'll use this as my starting point. I'll just turn this off for a second. And now, let's take a look at the data my boss sent me. Oh, all right. Well, that's kind of a mess. And I don't even really want to deal with that. So I'm just going to take this file and drag and drop it on my map. Yeah. That's better. So my points are there, and so are the attributes. And now I can just work on changing the symbols and configuring the pop-ups. So changing the symbols is easy, and we have plenty of airplanes to choose from. But I also want to size them proportionally based upon a field in my table, such as total cost. And let's just go and choose like the airplane that I like to use. There we are. And I'll set the starting size. OK, it's better. So we can tell from our map that we'll have a lot of construction money being spent up in the Greater Salt Lake, Provo, Ogden area. We also have a big project down by St. George where they're building a new airport. And that's good. So with the symbols taken care of, I can work on configuring the pop-up. Now, through the pop-up dialog, we can add rich content, such as images and hyperlinks and other media. And I can also choose to display just the attributes that help tell my story. So the name, kind of aircraft activity, total cost, and I do want to get my links. Now, we can also add additional content, such as media, such as like simple charts and graphs. So I'm going to create a pie chart that's focused on another set of attributes for my data. And once I get the title and details taken care of, I'm going to select the 1 to 5 year, 6 to 10, and 11 to 20 year costs. And again, I want to normalize this by the total cost. OK. So we'll save the pop-up, and we'll zoom back into the Provo airport and take a look at the results. So now, instead of just a list of attributes, my pop-up contains an image, some descriptive information, as well as a nice chart that helps explain how this airport is going to spend nearly $20 million over the next 20 years, which is great. So I'll add my pavement condition layer back on just to make the map feel a little better. And I'm going to save it, and I'll share it back. I can share it to my group. I could share it to my whole organization. But remember, since my boss wants this map to be in our public website, I need to make sure that I share it with everyone. Oh, that reminds me. The final part of my task is to click on the embedded website, add the functionality that I like, and now I can just copy and send this code to our web team to have it included in our public page. So let's take a look at the final result. Here's our public website, and here's our embedded map. Now, if I just zoom back in to the Provo area, you'll see that this map behaves just the same way as it did in ArcGIS Online in my embedded map. So in summary, what I've done is create a simple, intelligent web map. I've embedded it in our organization and made it available to the public. What used to take me hours, I finished in less than 5 minutes, and now I'm ready to continue on with my day. Thank you.